All right, we're going to call the public hearing to order. The purpose of the hearing is to provide a formal opportunity for council to receive public comments on the proposed municipality of the district of Digby municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. Upon seeing no one approach, we will have a background report from Chris Millier, Foresight Group. Chris, welcome.
Good evening. So just briefly, I think a report was circulated with your package. The council in 2017 asked the Planning Advisory Committee to undertake a review of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to regulate wind turbine development that was approved in 2010. It's a good idea to keep your planning documents up to date. Generally, kind of 5-7 year cycle isn't inappropriate. The 2010 documents were in fact updated in 2012 when the province created what was called the feed-in tariff program for community scale wind turbine development. So we actually had to do some changes to accommodate that class of development in 2012. The committee met over about a year's time, maybe half a year, on a fairly regular basis. We looked at the existing documents, we looked at the amendments, we reviewed current best practices, and technical information that supported the original approach to development control of wind turbines. And generally, the committee was of the opinion that the documents were functioning as envisioned and intended, and remained current with best practices, specifically with respect to how large-scale wind turbine development was regulated. I think we noted that Digby at the time was in fact probably a leader province-wide in terms of the nature and structure of the setback requirements and the regulations that were put in place. So we kind of did the diligence to make sure that we were still on track and things were working the way we intended them to. Part of municipal planning processes, part of a mandatory requirement is public consultation. So following the committee's work, a public open house was held, notice put in the paper and on the municipal website. And basically the open house was an opportunity to let people in an informal and casual forum find out about the work that we were doing, look at the draft documents and the related mapping that went with it, and just basically be aware of what was changing, really, if anything. The open house was only slightly better participated in than this public hearing. we did have a member of the community come out, so that was great. But it is an important opportunity to give people a chance to inform themselves. It's a mandatory part of the Municipal Government Act, so we're pleased to go through it. And I think following the adoption of the strategy and bylaw, which did garner a lot of comment from the community, it was a kind of a dynamic and changing time. The second time round, I think everybody's comfortable that both the sky was not falling and we weren't out to put the boots to everything on the face of the earth. So I think the original strategy did kind of find that balance and people understood it. So the draft documents have been circulated to you, and this formal public hearing circulated to you, and you gave first reading of your intention to consider adoption. This second step, the formal public hearing, allows council to receive directly comments from the community, and you should and would normally, of course, take those into consideration when you deliberate. Just quickly, I can tell you, but maybe you've had a chance to review the documents apply to the entire municipality except for those areas that have secondary planning strategies in place, which would be the Digby Wellfield area, the Conway area, and the municipal airport area. The strategy and the bylaw create a general development zone that applies to all of the lands outside of those three planning areas. So there is a zone that applies to all of the municipality. All development, including residential, commercial, industrial, institutional, agricultural, is permitted in the general development zone and does not require a development permit to move ahead with the exception of the erection of wind turbines. So the general approach and the function, purpose of that strategy hasn't changed. The development control regimes that we have in place for domestic scale, community scale, and utility scale turbines remain unchanged. So essentially the planning documents that you have in front of you are a refresh and an update. They consolidate the amendments that were done in 2012 and confirm that the municipality is still using the best practice approach for regulation of this particular type of development, and it's the only type of development that permitting is required for. So you received a recommendation from the June 14th PAC, which basically recommended that council approve first reading, set a date for a formal public hearing, and following consideration of public comment, approve the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw for the municipality and the district of Digby. And there ended the sermon.
Okay. There has been no written submissions, and there has been no verbal submissions that have come. So, Chris, I want to thank you for your time. And I would ask for adjournment.
I'll move adjournment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. So we will be looking at during our council meeting at the second reading.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Safe driving. Okay, thanks.
Now we will call the meeting to order and roll call. We have Jimmy McAlpine with regrets, otherwise everyone else is here. I'd like us to pause to seek guidance, please. Now we will have reading of the mission statement. To provide, promote, or facilitate municipal services that meet the community needs by preserving, supporting, and enhancing quality of life for all. Saying that, could we have approval of the agenda? Is there any additions or deletions? Second?
Wait 1 second. Is the community grants on this?
Yeah.
Well, second page. Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carries. We have some delegations, presentations to bring forward. First is Gloria Banks and Aaron Kelly of Grant Thornton Consolidated Financial Statements. Could I have someone to move for them to come forward? Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carries.
Thank you very much. So you all have a copy of the final financial statements. And so we did meet with your audit committee last week, and we went over the statements in detail. So I'm just going to give a very high-level overview tonight, but if you have any questions, please feel free. I'm going to start right directly on page 1, which is the independent auditor's report. So it's laid out in terms of responsibility. The first paragraph is the introduction paragraph. So these are the financial statements for the municipality of the District of Digby for March 31st, 2018. The second paragraph outlines that it is management's responsibility for these financial statements, to make sure that they are prepared in accordance with the Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards, which is the framework that you follow, and to set a system of internal control as they feel is appropriate in the circumstances, to ensure that the financial statements are free of material misstatements. As your auditors, it's our responsibility to be able to give you an opinion on these financial statements, and that means we have to follow the Canadian Generally Accepted Auditing Standards in the way that we perform our audit. We have to set a plan, we have to do our samples, we assess risk, and that's where we focus the most of our efforts. We do consider your internal controls and how they operate, as well as we look at all of your accounting policies to make sure they're appropriate in the circumstances. And if there are any accounting estimates, we look at those as well. So at the top of the second page, our opinion is that the consolidated financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the municipality of the District of Digby as at March 31st, 2018, and the results of its operations, changes in net financial assets, and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. So this is a clean audit opinion. We didn't find anything while we did our audit that would cause us to have to modify our opinion. And it is dated today, which would be the day that Council will accept the financial statements. Page 3 is management's responsibility for these financial statements. I won't go over that, but that will be signed by management. And then on to page 4. So this is the consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus. So these are the revenues and the expenditures. You can see that they're compared to budget to the current year and to the prior year as well. So just if we look at just revenues in total, you had originally set a budget of $7,280,679. And you came in at $7,346,704. So only $66,000 ahead of your budget. Well, it's better to be ahead than behind, but not significantly different. So that's a very close result, actually, on a $7 million budget. You can see that there are a couple categories that went up from the prior year because your revenues last year were $7,080,440. You can see in the tax line that it did grow by almost $200,000. And that's mostly from assessments and deed transfer tax that would have gone up over the prior year. Then you can also see that the sale of service line other revenue from own sources has gone up over the prior year. And so there's a couple of things in there. In the commercial waste, the volume was up during the year, as well as a full year for the wind turbine. You can also see that the conditional transfers from other governments has gone down, and that one will vary every year because it depends on the type of capital projects that you have underway. So last year you would have used more of your gas tax money. This year only a little bit of your gas tax money, but you also got the new grant through the clean wastewater and water system. So that's kind of the explanations for your revenue. In terms of your expenditures, you had originally set a budget of $7,121,967. And you came in at $6,792,756. So you're actually almost $320,000 lower than the original budget. And that will depend on the kinds of projects that you thought you might have incurred at the beginning of the year, but may or may not have happened. And that was clear with one project that you had set where Council had approved to fund the money under the PACE program, but in actual fact, it wasn't utilized. So that's one of the larger reasons why you're under budget. So at the end of the day, your annual surplus this year is $553,948 compared to last year's of $508,800. So it's fairly consistent, up a little bit over the prior year. And you had an accumulated surplus at the beginning of the year of $15,109,324. So your accumulated surplus at the end of this year is $15,663,272. And so if you turn over the page, onto page 5, which is your consolidated statement of financial position, or your balance sheet, you'll see that that number ties right into the very last line. And before we look at the details, you can see very clearly of that $15 million surplus, $12.3 million is invested in your capital assets. So because $15 million might seem like a large surplus, but most of it is invested in your physical assets. But if you look at the top, you have financial assets. Those are items that are readily convertible to cash. So you have cash and cash equivalents, your reserve fund for your treasury account, and your tax surplus sale account. Those items are cash and near cash, and they are very consistent year to year. You also have your amounts that are receivable. Those are amounts that will be collected in the future. That was $1.2 million. And then you also have your pension benefit excess. So that's an asset in your pension plan, $495,000. So your total financial assets are $6,509,141. On the liability side, you have the offset to your tax sale surplus bank account, the exact same amount. It's the money that would be owed back to people if they came to collect, of $555,094. You have payables and accruals of $491,481, and that does look like it's quite a bit lower than last year. But what happened last year was the fourth quarter of your RCMP payment was still sitting in accounts payable. This year it was paid before year end. You have your payable to your fire departments, and you also have deferred revenue. So that's money that you had received in cash, but it is designated for a specific project, so it'll be spent in the future when that project occurs. And then you have your long-term debt. So your total liabilities are $3,162,745. So that means you have more current financial assets than you have debt by $3,346,396. So that's what we call your net financial asset position. And then you have your non-financial assets, which are your tangible capital assets, of $12,316,876. And that's what's invested in your vehicles, your equipment, your land, all those types of assets. So those are the two important pages for revenues and expenses. I'll just draw your attention to note 13, which is new from when we met last week, but we did discuss that we would be putting in one extra note. And that just gives you the detailed breakdown of the public transit. So we've always disclosed your payments to King's Transit for the service that they provide for you. So the only thing we've added new this year in note 13 is the detailed breakdown of that. That's how much they collect on your behalf and then the expenses they pay on your behalf. It's on page 20 at the bottom. That's note 13. So that's the only thing that's new from what I presented the other day. So that is high-level overview, but if you have any questions. Any questions?
No, most of them answered at the previous meeting. All of them are, anyway.
So we could make the motion to accept the financial report for the municipality of District of Beacon.
I move that we accept the consolidated financial statement, Grant Thornton for municipality district to be on, 23rd of July.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Lovely evening.
You guys too. The next is Hal Terrio and Stacy Suzette to do a presentation on Electric City. Could I have someone move for them? George, is there a seconder?
No second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carries. Welcome.
Sorry, we jumped the gun.
Did I just jump inside here?
Sure.
We'll try to be brief. You've had all those financial figures. You probably don't need much else thrown at you tonight.
This is a relief.
Well, I'll try to stay away from money until later. First of all, we know how busy you are, and we thank you very much for the opportunity. We just wanted to try to bring you up to date on the background of what we've been doing over the last 2 or 3 years, or in some cases since 2008. What you're getting there is just a little rack card that we put out last year to make people aware. So we do appreciate the opportunity to bring you up to date on what's happening. Briefly, to give you the background, as I know, I'm sure you're aware, the story of the Electric City, La Nouvelle-France, is one that has been extremely popular. It's a legacy that has never really died in the area, and it's one that we and a group of us have latched onto as being potentially very important for future economic development in the area and to increase tourism in Weymouth. Weymouth is one of the most poorly visited villages in the entire province, as you may know. And I didn't turn it off because no one ever phones me. It's for emergencies only. One of my board members, she said, "What are you doing here?" Anyway, so it's something that we feel very important. The story is maintained and furthered, and it can be used as a way to encourage entrepreneurs in the area to develop their own businesses. Paul Stalin, who is our treasurer on our new board, he is the son of the man who wrote the Electric City book, the senior Paul, and he only had one sibling. She lived most of her life in England and passed away 4 or 5 years ago of cancer, and he's inherited all of the family archives. He and his wife had no children, so he has donated them all to us. So we have everything that's been handed down through the family that deals with the Electric City, and it seemed the natural movement would be to turn it into some place where the public can access it. Paul's opinion is very strongly, and it is ours as well, that, this is a community story. And Paul says it's not a Stalin story, it is a community story. And it's vital that the community be part of everything, and we've kept that philosophy from the very beginning of what we've been doing. So a number of years ago now, back in 2008, I approached the Weymouth Waterfront Development and asked them if they would be interested in sponsoring and producing a play dealing with the Electric City story as told in the book by Paul. And indeed they were. So over a period of a few years, we did 2 plays. The story was too big, I think, to be encompassed in one play. So we did 2, and one in 2010 and one in 2012 that told the story of the family. My original plan was to tell the story from the community perspective, the multicultural aspect of the workforce, which I think is essentially the most important story. But as I was writing, the story of the family kind of took over. So we did that, and then we just recently, at the end of April, did the 3rd play, which was to have been the one I wanted to write all along, which was the story from the perspective of the workers. So we have those 3 plays, as well as the book, and a huge amount of material. Paul Sr., who wrote the book, kept absolutely everything. We have every bill or every invoice probably that was ever received at New France and subsequent to that as well. And he had also written a 2nd book, which we now have the copyright ownership of. The book wasn't published at the time because Lancelot Press, who published the 1st book, said that the 2nd book, which dealt with the dispersal of the family and the breakup of the settlement and the terrible experiences some of the family had in World War II as refugees, 2 of the daughters in particular, just running ahead of the advancing Nazi army in France to try to find safety. They felt the story was too depressing compared to the uplifting story of the 1st book, and it might affect the sale of the 1st book and not sell well, so they wouldn't publish it. That's a different time. Now, Nimbus Publishing, who still produces this book, we just had to wait for a back order of 12. They reprint it constantly. Is interested in seeing it, and so they've asked Paul and I have written a new introduction for the old version and a new chapter I'm working on now that's going to be bringing a new edition of this out probably within the next year, maybe year and a half, and then a 2nd book to follow, we hope, which will be Paul Sr.'s 2nd book. So there's still a lot of material to be gleaned, to be used, and that's what we've been focusing on. If you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me anytime you like. So from the very beginning, the Stalin family took an interest in the local First Nation, the Mi'kmaq Nation. And the Mi'kmaq were honored guests at all of the community events that were held back at New France. And that interest and that friendship that developed was maintained throughout the settlement from 1892 virtually, and then 1895 when the entire family came, straight up to when the place was sold in 1923. And so the Mi'kmaq were a vital part of what's happening. So on our board, we have a Mi'kmaq member and a number of advisors from there, the First Nation, to help us with making the right decisions. Interestingly enough, for example, we just got, after 3 years of negotiation, we got an agreement with Natural Resources to be able to clean up the site, to keep it, to maintain it, to get rid of the underbrush, mow the lawn, and most recently to take down trees that are destroying some of the original foundations. So we've discovered a black ash tree, what we think is a black ash tree. Black ash is an endangered species, and it is the ash tree that is used to make baskets by the Mi'kmaq. And so we have negotiated through Bear River First Nation, and we're going to have a couple of Mi'kmaq forestry officials from the Confederacy in Millbrook to come down to assess the tree. And if it is a black ash, they can take it down and save the various parts of it for use in traditional crafts and so on. And we'll see what happens. It may not be. It may be the white ash, but we'll see. So anyway, that's kind of a little background. But from the very beginning, the story needs to be told that it is a story of these people from France, but also the Mi'kmaq First Nation, extremely important for the Acadian population, the African and Nova Scotian loyalist descendants, and of course these white loyalist descendants. All of those cultures were amply represented and all treated equally and fairly. And I'm sure you know enough of the story. I needn't go into that. And if not, you can buy a book from us tonight if you like, and you can read it for yourself. But as one of your council members already has done. So, but in the meantime, that's the essential and important part that needs to be preserved, we think. There are lessons to be learned about the way the Stalin family treated their workers, how they treated each other, how they learned from each other, those workers, that we could stand to learn from today. And it's a pity that those lessons had not been passed down to us as generously as they should have been, or that we are not as generous as they were back then. So that's kind of the background. That led to the Weymouth Waterfront applying for funding to be able to do a study, to look at a long-term development study, to look at the creation of an interpretive center. We got that funding, and we hired Donna Hatt, who some of you may know. She's the marketing manager at White Point, but she also has her own consulting company, and I'd worked with her many times before. And she did a multi-year development plan. We are in year 3 of that, and still following it. And that looked at what it might cost to do a center at that point, which is now, over 4 years ago when she did it. So we began the process of visiting potential funders, federal and provincial government funders in Halifax, meeting with them. And eventually, COA, the two federal, the COA and the Department of Community and Heritage, funded most recently a feasibility study for us to look at the possibility of a center, to find a location, to choose what we might have, what we want to have happen there, and to look at what general funding would be required. And so that was just finished just a month and a half ago or so, and now we're at the point of applying for the larger funding to get that process going. So we've been extremely busy with meetings. In the meantime, provincially, it was the Department of Communities, Culture, and Heritage, who all of these departments, by the way, have said this is a story. Well, perhaps I should say, as they said, you scratch almost any Nova Scotian community that is near the coast, and you will find inland from it there was a logging community, there was a lumbering community, and with varying degrees of success, many very successful. However, the unique story here is the combination of the workforces, the various cultures that were represented, and the involvement of the Stalin family from France. That's a story only our area can tell. And they feel that's very important. Everyone has said to us, all of these funders have said, this is a story whose time has come. It's the proper story for the right time. This is the right time. And they've all said if they were with us through the feasibility study and funded that, they no doubt would stick with us throughout the funding process. So you have reason to believe that everything will be a go. That's where we are with that part of it. In the meantime, Marcel McCoe, who is the Director of Culture Development for the province, some of you may know him. He's been at it for a long time. With the Department of Communities, Culture, and Heritage, he phoned one day and asked if we would take him back to the site. He had never been there. So we did, Stacy and I, and he brought his chief assistant with him. And like most people we take, he fell in love with it. And on the way out, he made an offer that we've not been able to turn down. He said that over the years, he's been putting a little money aside from his budgets, looking for the right kind of project to help with. And he said he thinks this is the right project. He compared Weymouth and what we are doing and our plays and so on with what happened in Carsborough, which is a have-not community with storefronts boarded up and a lot of poverty, severe unemployment, when the Ship's Theatre Company started with 1 or 2 people and gradually moved from an amateur group to a professional group and made it one of the moneymakers in Cumberland County. And now, of course, Carsborough is one of the most prosperous little communities, all caused because of culture. Marcel is a firm believer in what he calls the culture economy. And we've been able to convince most of our people that we talk with about the value of a culture economy, that it will breed new bits of economic development. If people are going to come to watch something or come to see something, they need a place to stay. Weymouth has very few places to stay at the moment. We feel these will follow. So what Marcel said is that if you will take your plays and other ideas that you have and add them to your overall plan, your development plan, add a theater component, start a new theater festival, he would fund the startup costs for the first 2 to 3 years to get us going. Wow. So we couldn't really say no. It was nothing that I had planned on doing, but it certainly seemed to fit in. I'd be doing the plays anyway. So we did a proposal last August and a budget, and we're at the point now where we just recently applied for the formal funding, and we'll be meeting with him, waiting to hear from him. Nothing much will happen during the summer, of course, but end of August, 1st of September, we hope to get to Halifax again and finalize the plans. We will be doing something, thank you. We will be doing something as an inaugural Electric City La Nouvelle France Theatre Festival in early October this year to get it going. We have a couple of new ideas, but essentially what it will be eventually is a week-long festival during the summer, and it will feature not only the plays that are written, but other plays and other interpretations of the story. For example, at noon hours during the week, if you come and stay most of the week, there'll be free shows at the bandstand or on the Storybook Trail in Weymouth. In the evening, you can go and see a formal theater or have a dinner theater or dinner at a restaurant and then a theater, so they involve other entrepreneurs as well. So that's a long-range plan. We have, I don't know if any of you have, this is the Donna Hatt's long-term development plan, and I can give it to you electronically if anybody's interested if you don't already have it.
I'd be interested, for sure.
Okay, sure. I don't know, I think, I'm not sure if Jimmy was
If you would send it to Linda or Pat, Linda the CAO.
You have mine?
Yeah, I'll come in and check with you. I have to come in and pick up money anyway.
That sounds good.
Okay, and also this is our feasibility study. And again, I can give you an electronic copy of this as well. We only got $15,000 for the feasibility study. It sounds like a lot of money. It is not, if you know anything about those kind of studies. And when we sent out a request for proposals, we only had one answer. The company, Acoustics in Dartmouth, For Media, and they said that there just is not enough money involved for us to be able to do all of the final planning and the actual budget, so we can give you ballpark figures. And when we contacted Canadian Heritage and said, this is the offer, what do you think? And our officer went to her superior, and he said, if it's fine for them, it's fine with us. As long as they're happy, it gives us the first important step. So we have a ballpark figure based on new construction. However, we think we have found a building, we're not at liberty to say at the moment, but a building or a series of buildings in Weymouth, in the center of town, which is where we think this needs to be, that we have to have a architectural engineer to do an assessment of it, but if we can renovate it, that's what we want to do, and it'd be probably about 30% less. This comes in not to shock you, and we've had enough figures for tonight, but the price of a new build to include a theater, to include a little snack bar, coffee place to buy coffee while you're touring, and the interpretive center and so on comes into just over $4 million. So I think 4.2. So that's the plan where we are at the moment. We are now at the point the waterfront decided back several months ago that this was a project too big for them at this stage. They're down to basically 3 people, and they're hard, as you know, it's difficult for them to survive with the empty buildings that they're trying to rent and so on, and they've reached the point that they really don't want to take on something with this responsibility, but they gave us their blessing, and so we applied for our own independence. We were a subcommittee of theirs, and now we do have that. We have our joint stocks registration. We are now the Electric City / La Nouvelle France Society, and we're applying for charitable status as well. So that's where we stand, and so now we're doing some basic fundraising just for office expenses. Our office up till now has been provided free of charge, including power and internet and so on, through Waterfront. So now we have to raise our own funds, so we're beginning to do some of that, including selling books. So that's the major point that we're at the moment. So we're in the phase of, so much of it is wait and see. Now we're at the next stage this summer. I'll spend probably the rest of the summer, Stacey and I, working on the ideas and fleshing out the proposal. Well, I didn't say, and I should have, one of the things that was identified in Donna Hatt's development plan early on is that we needed to have an independent committee, or now an independent board, composed of people with certain sets of skills that we desperately needed, financial or whatever they may be, and also representing the various cultures that were back at New France. So that's what we've done. We have a board of 12 composed of, we have representatives of the Acadian community, advisors from the African Canadian community, and Mi'kmaq, as well as English speaking and so on. Yeah, Acadian, yeah. So we're well represented as far as that goes. I don't know if Natalie Robichaud, who has replaced Elaine Timo, does that ring a bell? Elaine Timo, she was in charge of Acadian affairs, women's affairs, and a number of things over the years, worked diligently on behalf of the Acadian community for many years. She retired recently. She was on our advisory committee at first, and then Natalie has taken over. Natalie is younger and a real go-getter, and she's our secretary. Paul Stalin has agreed to be our formal treasurer, and his wife are both chartered accountants. They spent their entire careers as chartered accountants. So we have that skill well looked after as well. So that is the basics. All we're looking for is moral support at the moment. And we hope that it's very important to the community. I need not say that. As I say, the government people seem to think it will be an economic starter. It is very culturally and heritage-driven, obviously, and arts-driven. But and I say this to people, and they usually think I've made it up, but it's a fact. The arts, the cultural community in Nova Scotia brings in more as an industry than does a combination of farming, fishing, and forestry. So that's a fact. There's more money coming into Nova Scotia from that one industry, and we don't capitalize on it here. The Acadian community's been capitalizing on it for quite a while. Locally, we don't in the rest of the rest of Bigby County, but it's time that we do, and we'll do it in conjunction with the Acadians and then so on. So, any questions?
Any questions?
I would say,
If next year, if you get this week-long festival off, where would you do your plays?
At the moment, we're using the Historical Society building, so it would be after the teas are over. We could do it even during the week of teas, but we don't want to impose on them at
I
all.
was wondering if you're going to do it in the community.
We'd start there, doing it very simply. And we are both on the board at the Historical Society, and we've been working with them for.
I should make it clear too, the Electric City is completely Weymouth. We're doing everything we possibly can to stay in Weymouth, in the core of Weymouth. Anything we do, work related, whatever, all in Weymouth. What our saying is to the public when they ask us, our thing is we need tourism back to Weymouth, and we got to stop spending our money. We give me $10 and you give me $10. We have to get that Yarmouth boat over here and say, hey, I need some of your money. So we need that, because that's what's happening in Weymouth right now. Everybody's just spending their own money, and we have to change that.
One thing I didn't mention, I should have, when we made up our minds to go at this, and we did the long-term development plan, we began also to reach out. It's very important that we involve the community. We've had a number of public meetings, all of which, all except one really, were extremely well attended. Paul gave a talk one evening at the Historical Society building, and we had so many people we had to turn people away, and we had to talk the next day to make up for it. So the interest is there, and we get surprising interest from people from away as well, without any real promotion up till now, other than a little bit, it's just been word of mouth because of the book. But there's an amazing number of people who are aware of it, and our job will be over the next year while we're working on all of this to make many, many more people aware of it. We've been covered by Land and Sea on CBC television. You may have seen that episode, and then that was an episode about ghost towns in Nova Scotia, and they called the Electric City the most romantic ghost town in Nova Scotia in that episode. TV did a major item on us on the evening newscast, which they broadcast at least 3 times that I'm aware of. And I'm doing a major interview with Chronicle Herald on Friday. So there is interest province-wide and more to come, we hope. So we thank you for your time. And any other questions?
I just going to tell you what I said last week when I was in there swimming around to my buddy. The #1 unknown tourist attraction in southern Nova Scotia. That's what I called it. Sitting back there. All the islands know this story. Like, everybody knows.
And it's not even so much the story of Electric City. Like, we even have our own Balancing Rock.
I see
a lot
that.
of people don't know that.
Yeah. They do. It's very interesting.
Much more impressive than I have to say.
It's up there. They're all very impressive.
This is not connected.
We see this as a compliment. We see all of this as a compliment and supplement to everything else that's happening in Digby County. We're not in competition.
Now, I was asked scenic drive all the way in?
The last 8 kilometers, which is the road that goes from the old Irving Road,
Yeah.
which is in great shape, it's like the number 1 highway. Maybe I should say 101 because it's better than some number ones. But once you get past that and you go into the settlement, the government has not maintained because they're worried about liability issues. You can still get SUVs back there. Up until 2 Octobers ago, I was taking my low car. I have a very, very low car, Cruise.
I have a key there.
So a person with an SUV could go.
No problem. No problem. Just a little
Because
careful.
I was
so-
asked, and I said, I know that the Irving Road was good, but I didn't know that next.
Yeah, they try to discourage people because of liability issues, but in fact, people are back there all the time, and we've been back, Stacy's back this week several times. but
I just rushed here tonight because I was back there now. So I just rushed back to get the meeting.
We go back a lot.
So is there anything long-term, that, are they gonna fix the road?
Well, we've been, negotiating with the government. We met with when Hines was the Minister of Natural Resources, we met with him, and we've met several times with all of the various government, environment and so on. And they've had, some of you may recall, back it's been 4 years now, I think, they had public meetings in Weymouth and around to get public input. And all of them have been promising us for 4 years now that they're going to release a paper which will say what the government sees should happen back there. And they've been reluctant to do that because, again, they're worried about the responsibility. So our presentation asked to be able to be the shepherds of the site on behalf of the greater community, that we would maintain the site. So our offer for them, go ahead.
And we got that.
We got that. Well, no, we've got it unofficially just to maintain the site, but as far as any control over the site, we want the control to do something with it, obviously, yeah. But what we will do if they ever release that paper and it comes out in our favor, which local people and Natural Resources say is what's going to happen, we will negotiate then with them to fix the road up for a one-time, and we can maintain it. We have enough volunteers and equipment that have said they will help us to maintain it once it's ready.
I don't know personally, but I think the long range, once we have our center set up, they realize that we have insurance and all that stuff. I think that's where the big turnaround would be. And they'll say, okay, you got your own liability insurance, you take care of it. Because they gave us, up to this point, like quite a bit of leeway. And like we can go in and do pretty much what we want now, but there's still kind of things that we can't do, like fix the road and stuff like that. But that, and again, that's a Rainbow Company too, so we're dealing with the Germans too, so. Yeah, they're not just keeping up.
The site itself is just provincial, but
Yeah.
they're on the road in. Both sides of the road pretty much are owned by this Rainbow Company, which is a conglomerate from Europe, mostly German. They're not doing anything. They haven't done anything back there at all, but they own it. But that shouldn't affect us because the right-of-way is there perpetually, supposedly.
Now, my next question is, I own already 2 of the books. First edition, and then another edition. Now, you're saying you're gonna add a chapter. How am I gonna know in that chapter? I mean, I don't wanna, no offense, but my first 2 books are exactly the same.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Except I wanted the first edition.
Well, they changed the cover in order to sell you a second one.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, there's 2 different covers.
Yeah, that didn't have nothing to do with us.
The next one,
No.
sorry.
But you were saying you're gonna add a chapter.
That's what Nimbus has asked us to do. I've not started working on it. We do have the new introduction. Paul asked me to write that for him, which I did, and he approved it. They would like to bring out like an anniversary edition of this. And the other one, if they publish the second one, and that's still up in the air, it could be, a few years. But this next one they would like within the year, and it'll be well promoted as an update.
I mean, like I said, I like the book, but I don't want.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You don't
But
want
I'd like to have the new chapter.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. The other thing I do want to commend you is the fundraising I see you guys are doing. So you're selling tickets that you didn't even ask me to buy the other day. Do you have tickets in the car?
Yes, I do.
Well, I'll just give you $5 and you can put my name on.
Okay.
But I just wanted to commend you. I know junk in the trunk day.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday. You know, I saw people there all the time, and I
That was for
there.
his curly fries, not for my tickets.
It's all girly cars.
Well, yeah, but like
Anything-
I had
anything
a
that
thing,
sells.
I had a thing. But I just want to say that it's a lot of work, and it was hot, and
Appreciate it.
we really appreciate what you're doing. And,
Well, we have actually, we do have tickets, and not that I'm trying to sell here, but to show the amount of cooperation, I mean, it's a package we're going to draw. We're doing a tea at one of the last two teas at the Wayne Historical Society in September. We're going to draw that day. The tickets, we have a package. Donna, who did our development plan, has given us a night and two breakfasts at White Point. We have a whale watch, and we have 10 pounds of lobster, and what's the other thing? Oh, $50 at least, and a $50 gift certificate to the Cuisine Rubber Show.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a nice package, really.
So why don't you guys send us a request for X amount of dollars?
We will.
We're
Waiting for the right time.
We're buttering our way in first.
Okay, good.
We're just opening the door.
But it's always better to come in and let us know what's happening. And
Yep.
Like I said,
We're
I heard you were you were in work, so I'm glad you brought that forward tonight because I didn't hear it till after the fact, so I was gonna actually pop out and ask you about it.
Like I said, like you were saying earlier, like we have rental expenses now and stuff like this, so like
Oh, you
we
do?
completely separated from the waterfront, so. Now we're on our own and we have to come up with.
So is
some
your
money.
offices donated by waterfront?
No.
It was, not
It was.
anymore.
But it's not no more. It's actually rent.
We don't know, and plus we have to light and heat some phones and on the internet and so on.
I wonder if this is.
We're on our own.
Big boys now.
All right, well, thank you so much
Thank you.
for coming.
Thank you.
For my ticket. And I don't need receipt or thing. I'm positive if I can't touch it, then surely have it.
Linda, do you want to put my name on for good luck?
My name on it for good luck.
I'll write it down because I won't remember.
Okay.
Stacy can tell you that. Stacy's the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that comment, Terry.
Thank you.
Nice job, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, the next is the approval of the minutes of June 25th. Does anyone see any errors or omissions?
I move acceptance of the approval minutes.
All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Under unfinished business is the Sandy Cove Beach project. You saw it done under the library, and you also saw the letter from our staff with their recommendation. So how is the council feeling about the donation of the grant of $2,000?
I move that we give $2,000 to the Sandy Cove Library Association.
Eldridge.
Pardon?
This is at the Eldridge Memorial.
Eldridge Memorial Library, yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay, is there a seconder to that? All right, is there any further discussion?
So the document, the actual funding request is under new business, it should have been under business arising, the 5.7.
Yeah, so 5.7 is really under 2.2.
But
A lot, TIR was gonna do a lot of this.
They are doing some. This is
the original cost was around $18,000,
Okay.
so it's down to $2,000.
And then they're gonna use some of that money to. Yeah. Get in contact with now. Who's running that at Eldridge? Gwen or?
She was a school board member, Donna Tidd.
Oh, Donna, okay. Who's contact Pat Gibbons?
Pardon me?
I didn't contact Pat Gibbons, some of those funds, because he can again track and stuff. He may be able to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll tell them. Okay, all in favor?
I.
Contrary minded, motion carries. The next is the CAO report, meeting reminders. Is there any questions?
I apologize because I was away last week and didn't get in an actual CAO report, I don't think.
I didn't see one, but I thought it was here.
No, so the only part of the CAO, there's really no updates other than the income and expense statement for this,
Otherwise, to remember, our next meeting will be in August, for our CAO. That's for our committee of the whole.
Committee of the whole.
I'm looking at you, look at
August
the
13th.
2015.
So they haven't changed since the last report. So meeting date and reminder, they're on that.
So,
There's one, just one meeting in August.
yeah. So can we have approval of the, under the financial report, of the June 28th, 2018 payables of $799,117.21, please?
I move approval of June 2018 payables of $799,117.21.
Is there a seconder, please?
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Income and expense report, any questions? Okay. Under our strategic priorities items, update on strategic priorities work plan.
And there's been no update.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna say that.
Oh, sorry. I was confused.
Nothing under standing committee items, so business items. We need to have the second reading of the revised draft of the regulation for wind turbine MPS/LUB if we're all in agreement after we have had the, the public hearing today. So if someone would do that.
What do I read there? My computer's updating.
Are you gonna approve, just
Second
say,
and final reading.
second and final
I
reading?
approve second and final reading of the revised draft of the regulations for wind turbine MPS/LUB.
Is there a seconder?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Now, the next is the second reading of the dog bylaw amendment.
I move, second reading of the dog bylaw amendment.
Okay, and that was, remember, we were taking away the specific time for the dog barking? Okay, I'm saying that, is there a seconder to it? Any concern, question? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. The next is under coastal protection.
Yeah, I saw that they want information by August, was it 17th?
Yeah.
The one, or am I mixing that up with the power expended one? But it covered some of the things I've been concerned about, but not, it's a different beast than what I was thinking of.
Carried? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's even better. We thought Brady just loved us, but we wanted to be here.
You hitchhiked here.
Well, I apologize for being underdressed.
Golf course.
Golf course was a little hot on us, but, yeah, the Coastal Protection Act, I guess we're going from one set of preserving cultural aspects to another preserving coastline. And essentially what's taking place is that there's three pieces that are going to be looked at. And that is, and that's in this document if you haven't had a chance to read it. But define the coastal protection zone is one of the big areas. The second is to regulate specific activities and then create the compliance aspects of it. So this is pretty much, and that there, actually, that slide tells me a bit about how they're going to approach this from riparian zones and the type of buffer zones that will be required. But I just stopped to see Chris on his way out because it's going to impact what he calls active shoreline. So we have a lot of active shoreline in the municipality. Fishing communities, look at all our coastal waves. Everywhere we look, we've got impacted coastal zones. So, and then what permitting is going to be required to either build something in those protected areas or who's going to define what that looks like. So there's going to be some pretty serious discussion going on about what that actually looks like. And yes, we do have until August to make a submission to the department about how it could affect us and what implications we think need to be included in the
Terry and I were to this,
Yes.
and, there's some other parts to it, but first one was.
Yeah, this
coastal.
was the coastal protection. There was three things going on that meeting. One was a planning session, and the third one was the MGA for powers to expand.
And there is a huge concern just because of what you're seeing of being eroded
Yeah.
on the coastline. And I brought up Barton Brighton on how that's going down there and how much coastline is lost. Also, in Culloden, there's another area that you're seeing it being cut off by like 6 feet. Or, yeah, easy. It's scary how much has been. So protection has to happen.
That's a good point there. 58,000 kids on the coastal frontage area. Within, I think it's so many kilometers, and then within 50 meters, 22,000 with civic addresses indicating structure on the property within 50 meters of the high water mark. So, I mean, it's a significant number of properties that are affected. Yeah, so, in a way, they're trying to take advantage of, well, not take advantage of, more or less be prepared for the pending coastal erosion that we're seeing taking place. So, with the powers to expend, however, it's somewhat complementary to the coastal protection, whereby the municipality will have those opportunities to broaden it.
So is there any indication that the provincial and federal government, or the provincial government, yes, would be looking to municipalities to
It's more
restore?
downloading services.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what we said.
They pretty much said that.
What they're
downloading
saying
stuff.
is it will come through on under your planning, a lot of it. So we'll say a person wants to build right on the edge of
At the
the
very
cliff.
end, we have a little two options, and that's what
It won't be
It
allowed.
can be, yeah, it could be that, no, you have to be 500 yards back. Or
Yeah.
What were they recommending here? They were recommending 140, or what was it?
That's at the end there.
Was there a recommendation, or they saying something?
They say, they give the hint that this is already our problem.
No. There's three possible broad approaches: directly regulating landowners and users,
Yeah.
regulating through municipalities. Province and municipalities regulate landowner and users. All options will require some level of program support and enforcement. And what you heard, or what I heard, and I think, Terry, you will agree at that meeting, we were talking more of number 3 than we were anything else. And if there's work to be done, that's the landowner. But for making now, from like, if it started today, it's from today on, yesterday does that make sense?
But part of that going forward is knowing what's existing now, so that would require some sort of inventory of
Well,
land use.
good point,
Yeah.
because we talked about mapping
Yeah.
and where we don't have current maps, so that was one of our beefs, is that you're asking us to do something like this, we don't have current data,
And we asked-
LiDAR that's been flown within the last 12 years to indicate where the coast is, so that's changed over 12
So
years.
we asked for that. We asked for the
Yeah.
province to take on, but that's something they would like us to say too. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, so
And
where
then,
we can provide
you know,
input.
mapping should be done by the province,
Yeah.
so that we can know what's going on.
And we can make our plan bylaws on
Yes.
that.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
So, if so desires council, I can prepare something with Linda and a submission to the.
Well, I think
You know.
council needs to determine either individually, if they want to upload some missions, or if we want to talk about this and take a look at it.
Take a little harder look at it, maybe in another session,
Collectively, or-
policy and planning.
Even though it's.
Like I said, my feeling is, I would like Terry to write up a thing for us, and then we go discuss it, whether we discuss it before the committee of the whole, or at the committee of the whole, and then we would agree and we send it. But Terry and I were to the same meeting. Terry heard what was being said, and I think, if he writes it up and we sit there and discuss it, instead of us all going in directions that might
I
take
guess-
3 times as
Well, I
long.
think I would suggest that council take a really good look at this, first, so that whatever areas that you have concerns about, you can bring forward.
Because it'll also affect part of our MCAP, where we're going forward on that piece. So I think, no, I agree with Linda Fraser that maybe we could either come at next policy bylaw meeting and put some discussion points on the table ahead of time. And then spend an hour at it, as opposed to, and then knock out maybe 4 or 5 bullet points that we think are key points that need to be expressed from the municipality.
So there's no other meetings other than the 13th that we have scheduled before the 17th. So unless we meet like at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock on the 13th.
13th?
Yep.
I would suggest.
3 o'clock?
3 o'clock. That gives 2 hours before this meeting.
We'll have a chance to study a little bit more. I'll talk to some of the other municipalities and hear what they're talking about as well. So
We'll send a
my
meeting
colleagues.
invite. That'll send a meeting invite.
I would also like to make a comment. Terry was very well known at that meeting.
Right on.
I mean, it was, no, I mean, very honest, well respected, asked his opinion. People were listening, which made me feel good because he's one of the few in this province that is hired under his capacity. Well, no.
Guys!
I mean, very, very honest, and
I appreciate it very much.
there was a good crowd, and like, I was listening to Yarmouth saying, but we're doing this, and we're doing this, and this one's doing this piece of it, and Johnny's doing this piece of it. And like one of the staff said to me, you've got it, you've got it.
It's a team effort. Well, I'm just a talking head sometimes, so I think it's a team effort, and you should be applauded for taking such a bold stance and trying to be proactive in this regard as well. I put it right back on you.
No, but I was just so impressed. I mean, I'm sitting there and we're talking and laughing, and they made us split up, like we could sit at the same tables together, which was, I think, a real good idea. But, yeah.
Would it be all right if I send you a couple of thoughts on this?
Yeah,
There's
just
a
give us
few
some-
ideas I haven't mentioned.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I was thinking like identifying issues, like, you know, if I can think of 4 or 5 things, or,
Yeah,
you know,
and then
talk a couple of
We could
big
talk to them in broad strokes
issues.
and maybe see what the pros and cons are, and then I think at the end what we want is a letter that we can say we all agree upon that should go towards to the minister, and at least our voices would be heard too, because some municipalities are just gonna accept whatever's written and, you know.
All right, and then we also went on to the MGA review, the principle of enabling legislation, which was sent out as well on this. And again, they wanted us to take the opportunity to add things that we thought that we should have instead of always having to go to the minister. For example, every time we want to change something that has to go to the minister for his signature, when really, as long as it's not contravening against the government, should be just be done here. Those are some of the things they were talking about. They want more flexibility, more opportunity to be allowed to spend money and how we spend the money. Allow municipalities, for example, to invest in broadband initiatives if that's what we so desire. You know, so on that, again, I think if we need to add that on that 13th meeting and go through your head, because again, we did a lot of talking, a lot of adding to it. You know, what would be some suggestions that we can make to make it better? I'm hoping that we have been under this MGA for a long time, and it does need updates on flexibility for us and opportunities for us.
Is that something that we should also discuss beforehand? I think.
Again, there's that page of the responses, so we could all fill that in and bring it with us to the meeting or send it in beforehand.
I'd like to see what Linda Fraser, the CIO, if she could, you know, maybe produce something.
But
because
here's
I don't
your
know.
questions.
She might be better.
No, this is the questions they want us to answer, David.
Not Tim.
So,
I feel like she's in a better position to answer a lot of these questions.
I mean, I can provide recommendations, but I really would like you guys to think about it in your work and what you try to do in in your own districts and how this could impact of how, what you do on a day-to-day basis as elected officials. Not what staff feel that will make, our jobs easier.
Thank you. And that's what I'm saying, we need to fill that out, either bring it in before, do you want it beforehand, Linda, or right at that meeting?
I think we can all bring it into the meeting on the
Okay.
13th.
Yeah, at that 3 o'clock meeting.
Yay! Let's see, what do you call it? Power to expand.
Power to expand.
You know. And there's,
Section 64, wasn't it, or something like that?
65, giving, I think there's 65 items to the.
Yeah.
With an extra 7 or something like that.
and the other thing I am going to tell you that was made quite loud and clear at that meeting is municipalities right now are not required to plan. But they are saying right now they want every municipality to have planning through their municipalities. They want our opinions again, but they're talking that it would probably be like a 5-year track if it goes through, which they're looking at it to do. A 5-year turnaround so that we would have it in. Claire doesn't have it, we do not have it, and they said there were some others. We have planning, but we have spot planning.
You mean like for the.
Land use.
Yeah.
Land use,
I saw that.
Right. With the exception of the plan that we just approved tonight, covers the entire municipality. But the only thing it regulates is the wind turbine. So that's our comprehensive plan. And then we have the Conway plan, and then we have the Wellfield protection zone.
It's by design too that we haven't done a lot of this.
it's because people didn't want it.
Exactly.
But what I'm
People
saying
didn't want a
is,
bunch of rules.
yes, but what I'm saying is, I'm telling you, they're telling you the benefits of planning. They're also saying that,
And not just planning, sorry, they're not just planning, but regional planning.
yeah,
Like
regional.
planning, not just with your neighbor, but with your, your whole region.
So like what we're doing with the red, but.
No, this would
Land
be
use.
land,
Specifically land use.
only.
Yeah.
Okay.
again, we have to send our comments if we agree, don't agree, think it's a wonderful idea. It would be a huge endeavor. I can tell you.
Those are things they're asking.
So our mandatory planning for all lands within a municipal unit, minimum planning requirements, and municipal cooperation planning and adopting, amending a municipal plan strategy and land use bylaw, including a requirement to consult with adjacent impacted municipalities. They really are pushing that if we're going to do something, how does it impact soil? How does it impact the town of Digby? How does it impact Annapolis County? And the same with these. They want that. They want that regional approach of how we can work best together on land use.
And it seems like it would be good for investment.
But, you know, so I'm just, it's going to be a heavy meeting, but it was a good meeting to attend.
Yeah, it was well worth it.
And I'll tell you, they had us moving.
Just the fact that each one of these meetings was 3 separate but mutually exclusive, but they were related. For instance, the powers to expand could apply to our coastal protected areas if we
Well, that's what I'm trying to fathom here. Is that what they're trying to say? Like, I noticed that,
It was 3 separate things.
Annapolis has their own, apparently they've figured out the shoreline.
Yeah.
So Yarmouth may have an idea. We don't have one in place. So what is it, the province is asking,
Is what our opinions are.
to make it that everybody is on the same page?
Right, that's
Instead
exactly what
of
they want.
Annapolis having the their coastal lines are all
Uh-huh.
done. We don't have any, and Yarmouth has some. We want
We
everybody on the
did have
same-
some years ago, but all of them, I'm sure. Back in 1994. 95, we did have some. We had all sorts of maps of our coastal area. And done through, our community futures.
Excuse me, the province is asking for a lot of work to be done on the municipality level. Like we said, we're gonna ask for mapping,
course.
but we're gonna do the mapping.
No, that's what we're pushing back. We want them to do the math.
I thought the, NSCC, geographical place in town was.
They do.
They do.
Sorry, they do.
So can't we just,
Part of the problem there, George, is it's old data. It's like 12 years old right now. Plus they'll charge us $250.
oh yeah, I know they want to
$250
charge
a
big bucks,
square
but
kilometer.
Oh, it's
they're the
wild.
not government, but they're kind of funded by the government
Right.
too.
So,
And yet we end up paying big bucks
It
to
would
get
be,
this stuff.
it would be, how much is it, what,
$500,000
how
probably
many
for
for
us,
us to take it?
to our coastline, just our coastline. So we said, it should be provided. You're asking
Well,
us to
they
do
want
this.
us to do it,
Right.
and, it's a lot of work, it's important to
They
do.
are
and
flying new LiDAR. That's the LiDAR that they're
Because a
flying.
little slack here, they're paying for it.
Yeah,
They're
so
always finding things for us to do, and they want to.
I think what we need to stress is that we need to have somebody else provide the maps and the data, the LiDAR for us. And, and then get the map, because what you're doing is you're modeling various coastlines. They're trying to determine how it's going to be affected with an impending storm or tide surge. So,
Those people be using really the 3 o'clock on those 3 things? We're fine?
I think that's plenty.
Okay.
I mean, if we don't get through it, we can get through the motion.
Okay. So I want to say thank you, Terry, for coming in. Next time, we expect to have a song as well with a guitar.
anytime, yes, yes, I apologize.
I have never seen him not dressed up.
Yeah, it's just mitigating circumstances.
You mean you're on vacation?
He's still ain't left?
Huh?
He's still ain't left?
Actually, I need to lift back to Weymouth.
Jump on back.
Thank you, and Lynn and I will talk and get us prepared for this week.
Okay, the next is the town of Shelburne. Yes, we did the other two.
It will take you, Terry, I will.
Okay, if they don't take it.
Town of Shelburne Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund. That was, for us to send a letter to support, wasn't it?
Well, I think participation, I think. You would be interested in the discussion.
Oh, yes, I forgot. It's supposed to be on the coastline, that's right. Are we interested in, taking advantage of this program, right, to implement a regional solution on it? I would think we would all want to be,
Well,
The
it
discussion.
depends on now what the province is gonna do, if they're doing the coastal community.
No, that's the thing, hey, you're just contradicting yourself right there.
If it's $2 billion, we won't have a finger in that pie.
I would say we'll put that on hold.
I'm not sure,
I would put that on hold.
disaster and application, yeah,
but this is disaster
it's funding.
for disaster mitigation. I would think we would want to have someone go and, listen to that first
I think
meeting.
Terry would be good, because we've done some
Yeah.
work on disaster adaptation as part of the MCAP, and some meetings we had with the housing association doing. But certainly, we can let them know that we would be interested, and then I can get the details of when, and then whoever wants to go.
Well, I think that would be perfect for Terry.
And Terry as well.
I would be interested, those villages are so much infrastructure just right there.
But should I have a motion, please? The motion would be that we are interested in attending we are interested in the disaster mitigation and adaptation fund, wouldn't it?
No, I would just say it's just direct
Okay.
council, or direct staff to let them know that we're,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. The Eldridge Rural Library has been done. University St. Anne's Atlantic Fisheries proposal. This is the one we needed the letter of support
And
for.
that just came in.
That came in.
Oh, yes.
And from Jimmy. And I thought it made a lot of sense for the best practices, where it's a support letter only. How do you all feel about it?
I'm good with that.
Would someone like to make an emotion that we write a letter of support?
So move.
Sort of the draft of the letter.
Motion to send a letter of support.
proposal to St. Anne's University.
So proposal to St. Anne's University.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carries. The next, again, just came in today, and it was the FCDA funding request of passages.
Oh, they were sent in a couple weeks ago. I think they got mixed up. I don't know what happened.
They came in, I'm not sure the date, but, I had, because council agenda was fairly full, I thought to give it fair, giving the council a chance to discuss it fully, and I was going to, put it on the August 13th committee of the whole.
Yeah, the reason that I mention it now is things are a little tight, the computer vote, for example, for passage. So, if I could bring it up now. I'd like to, is it okay if I talk to this for a moment before we begin?
You want to talk to the passages, you think?
All three of them, is why we have multiple projects with one organization. I'll give you an example. Remember the ferry approaches project? It got pretty tough there for a while. We had $20,000 in it, and the FCDA took over the lead on that. And last I heard very positive and very large numbers from the TIR. That's just an example of a organization that joined under the auspices of the FCDA, because they're the one with the building, they're the one with the insurance, they're the one with the 20-year reputation, they're the one with the 20-plus volunteers extra, right? So I just want to point that out. Another thing that they did for us down there with no money, other than an introduction from Dan Harvey. They were very important. They worked with me, and for the internet. They pretty much, they're a catch-all organization. So if you have a committee, for example, you mentioned like a trail committee for the back of the island, it's best to do it under them because they have the building, they have the insurance, they have the reputation. It makes it easier. So these groups are quite different underneath the umbrella. It's, we have a small area, if you want to use a computer, there's one option, or two. Well, on the file there's one option, public, that's the FCDA building. So I've used it to push numerous municipal agendas, as in myself as the councillor, and taken organizations like big projects to them, and they've always been extremely helpful. And these are three different projects, and they should be looked at as separately, and the reason they're all under the FCDA is because everything on Long Island pretty much goes to the FCDA, with the exception of a couple of organizations they do. So if you look at it as one group, it's definitely not one group. It's a rural accommodation to deal with the lack of money, people, all those issues that happen in small communities. This is a good way to deal with it. And they've been doing it for a while, and so don't get confused that the FCDA is double dipping or triple dipping or anything like that. These different things that go on under the auspices of the FCDA, they're very different, and we have different volunteer groups entirely working under them. So I just wanted to say that.
There's around, I think, 16 or 18,000. Well, less than two, yeah, so 16, around 16,000.
Yeah. It's also, just like I mentioned, that, it's not just good government, but you want sustainable communities. And these are the sort of projects that we want to see done for sustainable communities. I particularly get a kick out of the Overcoat project. Instead of $200 million Fogo Island, it's a $5,000 Fogo Island. Things like that. And I think that it's very useful for a small community with very low resources.
Yes. We're going to have to look at each one of these.
Yeah, of course.
I want some discussion because the budget.
Well, I see, like, there's
It
some
doesn't-
math not done right here or something.
Yeah, where was that? I looked through that. I didn't see what you're
I
talking
thought
about.
I had Did we figure, yeah, the first one.
I think it was the gallery, was it the gallery one?
Yeah, the gallery one, they had,
Yeah, you're like me, I just have a problem.
they were looking for, I didn't see all these at first, but when I started going through it, so much here.
It was the handwritten.
You asked for 3380.
Yeah.
And then you go down and you look at the breakdown of the project costs. 220, 800, 480, 80,000, 400, 600, 2,000. That's 25,580. So, you're about $500 off there.
Well, let's go for,
And where's their expense sheet, like their budget for community? I don't see the breakdown, but they must have a budget,
They would have provided their financial statement.
financial
When
statement. That was back in
we provided $1,000 grant for the Breaking Waves Festival, and at that time, I think they would have provided us their financial statements at that time. And I think even when they asked for the core funding, they did. But each project has its own.
group of people and.
So what happened was they had requested that we provide core funding of $10,000 over 2 years, so 5,000 and 5,000, which the policy is that we have never done that. So the suggestion was that they choose a project, one of their projects, and submit a funding request for a project. And then we had the three funding requests, which total.
Those are three different groups.
They
I would tell them to
7,000.
break up.
No, I'm just providing facts. It was 7,000, the total of the three, $7,830.
16 left. The only reason I'm looking at it, David, is we've got a lot of time left, and there's other people who, like I know there's some other stuff.
Usually this
that's
money's
gonna come up.
been spent already.
That's right. Yeah, I know, but there's other places in the municipality too. I'm thinking of the whole. That's all I'm getting at. There's still.
Well, I don't worry about,
I know you don't worry about the rest of the
$75,000 and, my guys getting nothing. I don't do that. I don't worry about, thousands of dollars going to the, D&E property. This is various community groups
Okay, let's,
under a larger.
okay, thank you for both your opinions. Here is my thing. Originally, they were asking for 10,000, as Lindsay just said, over 2 years, which would make 5,000 a year. These projects have come in, we can look at them and fully discuss them tonight, which is gonna take us a while. Or we go through them and we wait until August to that meeting so that we've gone through and we feel comfortable with something we just saw today. You know, that is council's choice.
It was originally, sorry, if I'm going to interrupt, it was at the meeting in the islands, on the islands, and we had that meeting afterwards and decided that the core funding, and I said there was a certain amount of time that this was something I wanted that had, that was time was important, and I don't recall, stretching it out for 2 months.
David, I'm not against any of this.
Mhm,
I'm trying to break it down a little bit. I'm not going to be here for the next meeting. I'm looking at, they're asking for $4,600 to advertise an Airbnb. I can get on this computer and I can do that that can be done in 10
It's not
minutes.
to advertise the
It's
Airbnb.
promotion in a website. If you do an Airbnb,
Which one,
the Airbnb,
Yeah, let's go to that one.
that's for the Overco project. Finance house operations of an Airbnb. Like,
No, that's fixing up the building, as my impression.
but it doesn't say that.
Let's scroll down here, let's take a look.
But it's just, all I'm saying is it doesn't say that. I'm reading it and maybe I missed something, but there's nothing there saying they're fixing it up. It says they need finance to promote it on Airbnb, and that's a free service.
The house operator, they finance the project, the house.
So I don't understand what the $1,000 for the website is for.
Present.
That's
To
all I'm
finance
asking.
the project, I don't think the project to finance that they're referring to is to put it on an Airbnb. I think
But that's what
it's
they
to
suggest.
prepare the building itself
Yeah.
to be
I
rentable.
think it's to prepare I think.
Okay, but it didn't
going
say
back-
that. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
And then down below it says a breakdown of the promotion and website. So I'm going Airbnb
Alright,
on
so
the
take a look at the
website,
promotion on the
just
website.
put it on.
Take a look.
I'm just-
So my question is, as I hear a concern here, do we want to make a motion and have it taken over to our August, which you can do? Or, as I said before, do we take each one and go through it bit by bit and discuss it and make decisions tonight? I need to hear from council, and I'm gonna hear one at a time. David, you wanna go first?
They've been in to see us, they've, provided, lots of information over the last couple months. And, they followed the direction as I understood them anyway. And I would like to go through them tonight. At the very least, I would like to go through the one for the passages, because the computers are kaput. So that is something that the other ones, I could wait, and if you have any other sort of questions, I could certainly get back to them. But that one in particular is kind of an issue at the moment.
George?
First of all, were these three things in our package?
No.
Okay.
They were supposed to be.
Okay, no, but I.
No, they weren't.
I was not under the impression that it was a time
Yeah,
sensitive
okay.
issue.
No, I
It
just
was
thought maybe
not.
I missed them.
They were emailed today,
Okay.
this morning,
To you? They were emailed to you today?
Today.
to council this morning.
Oh, from you?
Yeah, I just read these this afternoon, that's why I'm just.
I went to them and told them to get them in by, I think it was, July 11th.
It was
So
just
it'd be in
before,
time.
and it was just before I went away from vacation, so it was just last week.
Okay, so they were a little later than I'd asked, but they were still, I told them to get it in for this meeting, was what I told them. And they did.
And Linda was thinking that they had the August 15th meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we do have this massive
So they came
agenda.
in just before I left for vacation, I said, let's put them on for committee of the whole, because, you know, they're not realizing that it's a time issue. Committee of the whole usually provides a lot more opportunity for discussion, so. So David requested that they be added tonight, so that's why they were mailed, or
I
emailed.
wouldn't mind going over some of the, if they're time sensitive, if it needs to be done, if it doesn't, then, you know, I would prefer to come off of August. If there's
Okay.
anything that, you know, if they need money, or they need it, that way.
I'd be happy with passages and the other two we
Yeah,
put through.
yeah, okay, I just want to hear George, now I want to hear Matthew.
No, we can go through them tonight. That's what you wanna do, I'm just.
They're not terribly complicated yet. I think it's fine.
Okay, for the first one, it is on the, passages.
My computer's finally
There.
working. I've been operating with no computer, so thank goodness.
So on that one, they're asking the $2,050, right?
Yeah, it's here, so.
Yeah.
For passages, the request from the municipality is $2,050. Total project is $4,500, I'm just getting, so, $1,000.
$500 is gonna come from the village
Expenses, so we have
report.
the cost of administration is $1,000, I'm not sure what that is. 2 computers is $1,500, printers is $250, publishing program is $400, and whatever that is $1,400, so the total is $4,550.
And what they're asking from us, $2,050, right? From what I've read,
$250,
$2,050. The canteen from the village, from the Legion is 500,
I've asked them to,
and 500 from the village of Freeport, which I get $1,000. But yet they have over here, it's $1,500. I don't understand that.
cash,
in kind, they're talking about, well, let me cash 500 and another 500
that's
from
in
them.
kind.
But they just have up there, it's 500, there's $1,000 cash. And I, no.
Yeah, you're right. They're asking for two.
Potential.
Yeah.
The village of Freeport doesn't meet, and they
It's
said, yeah.
potential from potential, so it's not confirmed, potential from Freeport, potential. But they have confirmed, they have,
500 cash,
and then
$1,000.
in kind, it's $1,500.
I would think the village would kick in this, wouldn't they, David? Like,
I would hope so.
I would
They're gonna
think.
be hitting up the village for, the village has, well, these little villages are full of empty buildings. Things like that, collapsing this and collapsing that. Plus, there's, the village. They don't meet, until after the summer is the problem.
So, how does council feel about,
I'd like to make a motion.
about,
Well, this is for the,
passages only? My question is,
For computers,
for a computer,
We need two.
two computers,
air printers,
I assume they must have something somewhere, so it doesn't show us where they came up with these figures, but I assume there's something somewhere. See, I don't know where they're coming up
That
with
might
this
be-
total
that
of
is
$4,500 to network, two computers, like David, I just got a bill the other day for $200, and he networked 4 computers in my office. $1,400, like, where are these numbers, like, that's why I'm confused by this, like, I do business every day, and I just don't see where they're getting these numbers. Like, I can see $1,500 for a computer, that's a high-end computer, that should last
Two.
them, I know, but 1,500, oh, that's for, okay, yeah, that's still, yeah. And the printer is $250, it's a good printer. But this IT networking for $1,400, somebody's making a lot of money
What is
here.
the IT?
I don't understand unless they're
It's not
paying
hard
somebody.
to hook 2 printers up to, or hook a printer up to 2 computers.
That might be because they're gonna be printing it now in Bigby rather than themselves.
Doesn't matter.
Cost cutting.
Doesn't matter, like,
That's it. So I don't know, I
Taxpayers
don't
are
know
gonna
about
be paying.
computers. I can't answer you.
I,
you can, you can give any number you want.
Oh, yeah.
find a very high quote where they're getting high peak from. I don't know. And I feel the village should be kicking in a little bit more here, like $500 on
for a bunch of things.
What about passages itself, don't they make?
Do they make money, like dozen businesses? They get money in from that. And how many houses does Passages go to? Like, I mean, Claire Shopper doesn't ask us for money. They make money off their
Well, it's a private
advertisements.
business, this is a community.
I know, but they gotta,
They make a small profit, which is then used, for example, in the building.
I was under the
building up
impression
and
it ran
placing
self-sufficiently off the
The
advertising.
problem is, I think this is they're not writing down the tons of things that they do. Like they
So
replace
maybe we
windows.
need to wait on this till August
Yeah, I
and
think
get
we
them
gotta-
in here because
Yeah.
We need more of a breakdown, David. I
Yeah.
want to get, I like the presentation
Yeah,
stuff.
I-
I need
you're
more
right.
of a breakdown of what
Yeah.
they're doing.
I don't think we need a presentation from them, but
No, no,
maybe
I-
the council can ask questions of them directly.
Yeah, that's right.
I
I
didn't
think
mean
we're
in these
interpreting, it's
presentations.
probably
Yeah.
to David to try to interpret.
Yeah,
What they
they gotta interpret, not me.
So could I have a motion to table this
Yes.
until August 15th?
Okay, motion made.
And we'll
Second
contact
Rick to get him to come.
all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Okay, so I'll just.
Well, find out about the Airbnb website and all that.
Yeah, I gotta
We're
get
gonna
that.
bring them in.
Bring him in and you can ask him directly.
The only thing is, I'm not gonna be here.
Oh.
You can give me a list.
I will email you, that's all, I'll do.
Yeah, I'll figure this.
Oh, yeah, he's on his way.
I'll on my honeymoon, so.
Hush. Well, you can just give up the honeymoon.
Yeah, that'll work well, won't it?
A cranky counselor and a cranky staff person.
Tell it over.
Moving on.
Don't get over it. No.
Okay.
I'm gonna go sit down with those people. I don't know. I thought.
So are we?
We
tabling
tabled all
of them?
three.
Yeah.
That's what we just
We'll
did.
ask them to come in.
And then all they're gonna do is answer our questions.
Yeah.
So we can get it, this decisions made. The next was, the County of Annapolis Smart Cities Challenge. And in that correspondence, they, what did
This
they
is
ask
on,
for?
not, it's just correspondence, there's no
Oh,
action.
there's no action on this one?
Correspondence is all just,
Okay.
it's letters.
The Department of TIR from the Minister of Lloyd Hines, letter from Campaign to Protect Offshore Nova Scotia, Town of Digby FCM Municipal Staffing Grants, Digby Area Tourism, thank you. in the letter of the campaign to protect offshore Nova Scotia, they were asking if we wanted to have any questions or concerns sent to them about what is happening. So if we had any questions or concerns,
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things I don't really,
or they would come down and talk to us, what's happening.
I wouldn't mind doing the presentation, because I don't really know enough of the topic
In the fall.
to ask, pertinent, specific questions.
So can we ask them to come in the fall to one of our meetings?
Yeah.
Don't they have something written in there that they're gonna have something in Halifax? Is
There's
that-
been a number of sessions, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Deputy Warden, I just had a question for you.
Yes.
Have you made contact with Colin Fraser, like, for an upcoming meeting with Gordon, with the 101?
Linda has been trying, how have you succeeded, Linda?
Well, I think not to set up a meeting, but getting a response back regarding our letters of support that came in from other municipalities.
Yeah.
So, we'll get a response.
And we do need a meeting, because what is being told me now is they do not plan on finishing this year. They're gonna put the paving off till next year.
What?
Well,
Where?
I figured once Dexter's got here, it'd be boom done.
Paving, was it?
Where?
Even's supposed to be done here in October, it's supposed to be all said and done.
I know it's supposed to, but that's why.
They're talking about the 217.
No, we do need another meeting, and we need it
Yeah, we need it.
during the summer.
I'll be back, I'm back.
Well, there's no need of even completing the road if you're gonna pave it.
Well, not until.
Well, I
next
can find
year.
that, I mean, there's been a lot of rumors that have been going around with the
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
Yeah, well, from the 20th.
Well, on that topic,
From
you
the 20th on, I'm back.
Okay, so anytime after the August 20th, I'd like for us to have a meeting.
Well, on the
And we'll
topic
get
of highway,
everybody.
is that overpass bridge?
It's, the problem is the undercarriage is not fit, so they gotta fix it.
Gravel seeping in between it, and they need to be able to fix it.
Yeah, I think it's the
Bottom
actual
piece.
surface.
Bottom surface piece,
The
and you go over it, the
surface.
gravel's coming down, it'll take care of
Oh, on the cars and stuff, okay, yeah. No, I know, I heard there was a problem, but
Yeah.
it wasn't up to specs or whatever.
Yeah, it's a huge problem.
So it's
So
gonna
we
go up.
want to make sure that both Gordon and
Colin.
Colin Fraser can attend.
Yes.
Okay, general information items was the REN CEO report, the REN news release, Digby Neck Collective June agenda, establishing a baseline active transportation and health indicators, and wellness fund watch. Any questions?
For the correspondence that we got from Annapolis, I found that letter kind of confusing. It was written by Timothy Galinsky. Maybe you have the previous one with it. I had trouble making heads or tails out of it, exactly what was going on in that letter.
So we weren't successful, so it's really a non-issue.
Okay.
We weren't successful in our application, they announced it at FCM.
Okay.
The ones that
Right, no
were
problem.
successful,
It's a
so
non-issue.
this was probably 3 weeks.
I wasn't clear on what was being covered in that letter. Like he was saying. He supported it, didn't support it, they weren't partners or partners. It made no sense to me, and I feel like I'm a pretty good reader. Comprehension, maybe not the best talker, comprehensive reader, yeah.
So they were considering rescinding their motion, but in the meantime, it becomes moot because,
Next is the advisory committee minutes and reports. Remo February minutes, any questions? Then we go to other council committees. Joint intermunicipal committee minutes reports, Digby Area Recreation Committee, and that is the important one is the letter of the telescope at the airport. There's a May minutes, July Recreation Director and Facility Manager reports, Active Living Coordinator June report, and the telescope, 10 years ago, we were looking at having a telescope that was at the school put out at the airport so everyone can use it. And at the time, it was a go until the school board said, oh, no, we can't do that, we're just gonna, so it's still boxed up, never used, for another 10 years.
Great.
So we have on confirmed, like verbal only, that Paul Ash, the regional director for Tri-County Regional Center for Education, has said, yes, they will give us a telescope if we provide it so that the students can use it and the public can use it. And what we're asking for, we would still be the lead on the project, but we'd like to have permission that we could have it out at the airport again.
Is it like placed outside, or is
No, it's
it bring
not.
inside?
They'll build a structure.
They'll
Build a structure for
Yeah.
it?
They're gonna try to get funding for it.
Okay, I didn't understand how
Kind of structure.
magnificent a telescope is this.
Oh, it's
Huge.
huge, big.
Hey,
It was a $10,000.
I know people would be into that.
Provided
$10,000.
to the school.
And it's just sitting there for doing nothing.
Well, it's been there for probably 15 years.
I think when Gordon was here,
I remember him talking, maybe.
WCAO, he was trying to get it going then.
Wasn't it when they built the new school after the fire?
Yes, it was when the new school was built, that's been 15 years.
Observatory, awesome.
So is this just letting us know that Dark is.
Well, we are asking permission if we can go to the airport again. That's what we're coming here for you.
I knew, yes.
I was like, more than I
I'm all for it. I'm just thinking they should put it in something really good for people to.
Oh, we're going to do it so because
There is a plan, there has been.
there's a plan.
It's dark out there too, really good spot.
A perfect spot.
It's actually because it's in a high spot in the area and things.
I think it'd be great for DNR, but there's too many trees.
So could there be a motion made that the municipality agree for us to partner in this, that we would be able to use the Digby Indianapolis Municipal Airport?
I motion to,
So moved.
start to get the, telescope to use the Digby Annapolis Airport.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. I'll be honest, I had wrote Jackson, do we put this under new business, we put this under the dark report, because it came, at our dark meeting on Wednesday, and it was like a short time. Thank you so much, and we'll be getting on with that, because they really want to get it done.
I think it's a great idea.
The next is the Digby Municipal Fire Association. You have the April and June minutes. Any questions? King's Transit Authority, bus 58 work order and pictures. And did you get more stuff, Linda?
No, nothing yet.
Okay.
I assumed that it was bad, but the pictures were hard to see.
I didn't understand what was going on.
In other words,
I had a clue what was going on.
right now we're using bus 50. That's the bottom line.
All right.
58 is being fixed. A lot of it is under warranty. There.
But, yeah, so it's corrosion that needed to be done, so it could pass safety.
Is this our new bus?
Yes, the new bus.
Newer.
Erosion?
Yep.
Anything other to it?
They're supposed to be. Oh, that's showing their stuff, what they have to do and all that. They're showing the corrosion. So. I told them I wanted pictures.
Yeah, you got pictures.
Well, I didn't mean I had to understand them, but as they say, a picture's worth 1,000. Oh, and that's the new bus accessories that they have down there with the shelter.
Where is it located?
That one's at up at King's Transit.
Oh, not the one that we're going to put it.
I have a meeting with Glenn and Tom on August the 4th, and I don't know, Linda, are you attending that, or is it just me, Tom, and Glenn?
So where are they putting it? Is it in Digby?
I'm sure it's August, maybe it's the 3rd. I'll double check it. Yeah, we want to put it up by the mall, but we can't seem to get permission from the mall.
So where
So
are they going to put it?
well, we're gonna talk to Tom, but I would think it just, we'll move it up a little bit. Yeah, but again, we don't know until they We gotta hear
In
from,
town, so that's.
it has to be the tenth.
Yeah. That's true.
But the money's been paid out, so we're safe there, we're not gonna lose the money, because that was, he wrote me we could lose the money, and I was all in hither, we're not gonna lose the money. Okay, so just wanted to keep you up on whatever's happening at King's Transit. Remember that $30 bus pass is happening for all students, all summer, you know? So they can travel anywhere all summer for $30. Yeah, it's fantastic. Skyview Terrace, 2017 AGM minutes. Any questions or concerns? Wage check, July 2017 AGM minutes. June 2018 AGM meeting notes. June 2018 regular meeting notes. Any questions or concerns? Weymouth doctor recruitment, there was a letter from the Weymouth Area Health Coalition. They had a letter returned to them that has came from our warden, stating that we are waiting to hear if the new doctor has accepted. Have we heard anything?
Nothing yet, other than that Anthony Cordell, who still is in direct contact. They're still negotiating, and so it's still positive. The doctor and
It's not a no, as long as it's not a no.
No, so definitely, and he's aware of the additional incentive, and so.
And,
To Dr. West,
and I spoke with,
where you go to.
well, okay, what happened is, they called, what was decided at our meeting was that the, Weymouth Village Commission would be contacted. They would know what we had for our offers, and that they would have 2 village commissioners. That is what was done. That, you know, so that's how it was done. Anthony Cordell was sent to somebody else. What they want, I was talking to the village commission chair, Erwin Gadet, and he said as soon as we hear, they would like to have a meeting so that we can, you know, because there's some problems with some people because they think we're not doing anything, even though we're saying you can't put the horse before the cart. So you gotta sort of wait, is this doctor gonna take over?
Well, you can't, yeah.
If he isn't, then we look at whether we're gonna hire the recruiter. We go back to the meeting, the community meeting, and we will discuss what is the best for that community. It's not, council cannot dictate to the community. That's why we're there as a committee with the people that are in part of it. And so, just to give you a heads up on that.
No, I just want.
So a letter has come from the warden to them. Next is the, Ren, June 2017 minutes. Any questions?
Real interesting. I was wondering, if there's any more room in that continuous improvement plan for, you know, maybe DD fisheries or anything like that, or does this continuous improvement, does it have to be manufacturing? Would be good for example, I don't know, the lodge or something like that.
I would tell them to get in touch with the Ren.
Alright.
That would be the best thing. And there's a new economic officer who was hired today, and his name, I'll look it up in a moment.
Even the 3 officer, I'm assuming they're replacing the
Yes.
book.
Yeah. It is.
So the minutes that are included are the AGMs from June 2017.
Yes,
It's happened.
that would be your job.
So once they're approved, and they're only approved yearly, for the AGM. So those are the minutes, that's the information you're reading, so.
It's not, okay. Guess I'll check out the website, see what I can find out for current.
And if there is a new person that's been just hired,
Certainly encourage anyone to contact
but
Dan
my
Harvey as
computer
well.
stopped working.
Would they have issues with?
I was looking through, I was just trying to think of anything in my district would benefit.
Please. Outside boards and committees, Digby Area Tourism Association, June minutes, any questions? Suncrest Biosphere Society, the 2018 teleconference minutes, the June 2018 report, the 2017 AGM, and October 27th meeting minutes. Upper Clemens Park Society, the May board minutes, meeting minutes, and extraordinary meeting minutes. Any questions? Okay. Counselor activity reports. We will start with you.
The tourist mental health issue in Ireland was resolved. I'm dealing with a dispute amongst neighbors. I got 3 kids at the camp. Various groups and applying for funding. DOT calls, lots of them. Whale Cove Road dust problem. DOT policy is met. I have my own plan that I'm working on. I'll let you know after I did various community functions. Helped move an old elderly lady into a house. Spent 4 hours moving her furniture, too old to do it herself. Tried to pay me. Said, too bad, you already paid me the tax dollars. That's why you paid the big bucks. Called DOT, asked for gravel. There was an elderly lady, so I shoveled a couple of fish boxes full of gravel and fixed it myself. Reached out mainly on telecom and checked out the Nova Scotia power options, a no-go. And the health teleconference, that's really great at keeping the health authority on its toes. Really recommend it. And a sort of an interesting one, I had a backpacker dropped off at my house by Ann Schweitzer and a bunch of other ladies. She was in Little River and was looking for somewhere that she could trade work for room and board. So I was able to find her a place to stay for a week in trade for work. And she said she had the most amazing one. So all kinds of interesting things. I particularly like that someone in Little River said, go find David Tudor on Long Island and he will help you. That was it. So she told, Aunt hitchhiking towards Long Island and picked up Ann Schweitzer, and yes, she knew who David Tudor was. She bought her an ice cream and dropped her off in my yard. It worked out good. And then we'll get her ride up to Halifax to catch her plane back to Belgium.
Oh, okay. George.
I didn't have any backpackers dropped off.
I know, it was like, I'll figure it out.
A couple of weeks ago, there was the annual picnic at the lighthouse in Gilbert Cove, and I volunteered there for a couple of hours, and I'm not sure the outcome of it, but I'm sure it must have been pretty good. It was a fine day, sunny, so can't go wrong. The Music on the System has been going now for 2 or 3 weeks, and we had a huge crowd out tonight for one stop 2 weeks ago. And last week was a good crowd, not as big as the week before. And I also volunteered there with their hot dogs and stuff. And that's about it. But I also wanted to mention about the float put in by the municipality. Just give Rob his due diligence or whatever. It was at Weymouth Days and Church Carnival. Nice job. Looks nice.
Okay, thank you. Matthew.
My month certainly wasn't as interesting as yours.
I left stuff off.
You as well. No, I was down at Weymouth Days and ate George's fine wiener roast barbecue. Thanks, George. Went to breakfast at church in Barton and been meeting with constituents and doing some meetings. And that's been pretty much my month. Really one hot one.
Okay. Now it's to me. I actually am sort of like David. I have made so many calls to TIR about the Eagle Cross, Sandy Cove signage, the Denton Road and Little River.
Denton Road, Little River, not only tonight, I did a bunch of stuff for that.
I called about Bloomfield Crossroad. There's supposed to be 7 kilometers of section there for gravel for that. And they still haven't done it yet.
Nothing has been done.
And I've got to go down to North Range. I sent an email off to Kerry the day of Weymouth Days. I came back and there was a big washout there at Cook's Road. And sent an email just to say, look, I know you guys are busy, a lot of washouts.
at least somebody put some pylons out there, somebody in the dark's gonna hit that and bust up, but I didn't get a response, so I have no idea.
I also called about the Wharf Road off of Fullerton, and, 3 other roads that were having problems, and, there was a lot of washouts from that storm that I got calls for and made the calls. I also attended the Canada Day celebrations in Weymouth. I was judge at the parade, and then I was to Bear River to their activities, where I, spoke as well. I went to a strawberry tea on, Saturday, which was, down at the Anglican Church. I also, went to, 2 teas down in the Weymouth Historic Society, and, the Me to We tea that was put on by Zoe Marshall, which, they raised a fair amount of money. A lot of hard work on their part, and I want to congratulate them. I just had a Biosphere Reserve meeting that isn't out yet. I also went to Seniors Day where I helped serve the meal, and it was actually some fun there because it's the opportunity for seniors that they come up and ask questions, like, you know, how do you do this, how do you get this, and it's actually a great time because it's the ability of them to have fun. Then I went to Cherry Carnival because I didn't want to miss out on having fun at the Cherry Carnival. Hot, and super hot. Also, I just wanted to do a reminder, the 4-H Ellers is happening on the 25th and 26th of July. And I'm going to offer you 2 invitations. One is at noon at the Canadian Tire on the 25th, where they will be doing some announcements, and there will be a barbecue or some sort of food. And also, and that one's at 12. And on the 26th at 9, Garth has been requested to attend the 4-H Ellers, and the kids are going to have the opportunity to ask questions of the celebrities and get autographs as well. So you all are invited to both of those as well as that. Otherwise, besides this, I've been attending a lot of social things, but like I said, the roads have been a mess for the last month, and concerns people are having about what they're going to do for winter, for wood and that type of thing, because
Washboarded and no chloride on them, they're not.
They haven't fluoride all the road, but they did ours last week.
And the only other thing I wanted to say, I did attend the Lighthouse picnic, saw George and Formanity.
Yeah, I stayed away from our Cherry Carnival, to stay over the other side, and come around.
I made sure I spoke to her then. So on saying that, we are next to go in camera. It is on a personnel issue.